off the street. And we need a domestic terrorism law. We can do it without infringing on anyone's free speech, without tampering with anybody's liberties. Quite simply, we have to make the same commitment as a nation to root out domestic terrorism as we have in stopping international terrorism. I wish I could say that this all began with Donald Trump and will end with him, but it didn't, and I won't. American history is not a fairy tale. The battle for this soul of the nation has been a constant push and pull for 243 years between the American ideal that says we're all created equal and the harsh reality that racism has long torn us apart. The same document that promised to secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our posterity also allowed for slavery and the so-called Three-Fifths Compromise that discounted the very humanity of black people in America at the time. The honest truth is, both elements are part of the American character. At our best, the American ideal wins out, but it's never a rout. It's always a fight, and it's a battle that is never fully finished. Go back to the beginning. Thomas Jefferson wrote what many believe to be the most important document, civil document in human history. But he was a slaveholder. We've never lived up to our American ideals. Jefferson himself didn't. But what he wrote has pulled us towards justice for more than 2 centuries, and it still does. It remains this nation's North Star. Take a look at the Klan, Ku Klux Klan. After the Civil War, we saw a rise in the Klan. It was beaten down only to rise up again in the 20s. In fact, in August of 1925, 30,000 fully clad Klansmen in their robes and pointed hats marched down Pennsylvania Avenue, the streets of Washington. Imagine that today. And then the Klan was once again beaten back as it was after the Civil War. How? The courts, the press, and yes, presidents stood against them. And that is the point. Our institutions, often imperfectly, stood against hate at moments when we were most tested. American presidents have stepped up in the past. George H.W. Bush renouncing his membership in the NRA. President Clinton after Oklahoma City. George W. Bush going to a mosque after 9/11. President Obama after Charleston. Presidents who led, who opposed, chose to fight for what the best of American character is about. There's deafening silence now. Sadly, we don't have that today. Our president has aligned himself with the darkest forces in this nation. And it makes winning this battle for the soul of our nation that much tougher, harder. Trump doesn't understand what Franklin D. Roosevelt did. Roosevelt said the presidency is, quote, preeminently a place of moral leadership. He doesn't see what JFK did when he said only the president represents the national interest. He's blind to what Lyndon Baines Johnson said of the office when he said, quote, nothing makes a man come to grips more directly with his conscience than the presidency. Trump offers no moral leadership, seems to have no interest in unifying this nation. No evidence that the presidency has awakened his conscience in the least. Indeed, we have a president with a toxic tongue who has publicly and unapologetically embraced the political strategy of hate, racism, and division. So it's up to us, as it was in the 20s. It's up to us. We're living through a rare moment in this nation's history where our president isn't up to the moment, where our president lacks the moral authority to lead, where our president has more in common with George Wallace than he does with George Washington. You know, we are almost 330 million Americans who have to do what our president can't. Stand together, stand against hate, stand up for what is best, our nation's best, when we're the best. In this nation, we believe when we're at our best. We believe in honesty, decency, treating everyone with respect, giving everyone a fair shot, leaving nobody behind, giving hate no safe harbor, demonizing no one, not the poor, the powerless, the immigrant, or the other. Leading by the power of our example, not by the example of our power. That's allowed us to stand as a beacon to the world, being part of something bigger than ourselves. It's a code. It's a uniquely American code. It's who we are. But Donald Trump doesn't get it. What this president doesn't understand is that, like every other nation on earth, we're unable to define what constitutes American by religion, by ethnicity, or by tribe. You can't do it. America's an idea stronger than any army, bigger than any ocean, more powerful than any dictator or tyrant. It gives hope to the most desperate people on earth. And it's not only our values that are under assault, our democracy is as well. A free press, an independent judiciary, a legislature that is a co-equal branch of government. These are the guardrails. These are the guardrails of our democracy. They're written into our Constitution. And if you've noticed, for the last 2+ years, they've been under attack. Phrases like fake news, enemy of the people, they're no joke. They're insidious. They're corrosive. Just look around the world. The worst despots are now using Trump's language to justify their own abuses of power. Trump is trying to weaken our institutions, the press, the courts, the Congress, precisely because they are the only checks on his power. That's what this is all about. The abuse of power. If there's one thing I can't stand, and I know you can't, is the abuse of power. Whether it's a boss taking advantage of his or her workers, or a man who raises his hand to a woman or a child, or a president who's running roughshod over everything this country believes and stands for. No matter how old or young you are, you've never seen anything like this in your lifetime. We're being reminded every day that there's nothing guaranteed about democracy, not even here in America. We have to constantly earn it. We have to protect it. We have to fight for it. I believe America is, as Lincoln named us, the last best hope on earth. But we have to remember why. It's not because we have the biggest economy, the strongest military in the history of the world. It's not because we have the most innovative entrepreneurs and the greatest research universities. That's all true. But it's not why we're America. The reason is what we believe. The most powerful idea in the history of the world, I think, beats in the heart of the people of this country. It beats in all of us, no matter your race, your ethnicity, no matter your gender identity, your sexual orientation, no matter your faith. It beats in the hearts of the rich and poor alike. It unites America. Whether your ancestors were native to these shores, or they were brought here forcibly and enslaved, or they're immigrants from generations back like my family from Ireland, or those coming today looking to build a better life for their families. The American creed, that we're all created equal, was written long ago, but the genius of every generation of Americans has opened it wider and wider and wider to include those who have been excluded in the previous generation. That's why it's never gathered any dust in our history books. It's still alive today, more than 200 years after its inception. But I, honest to God, don't believe Donald Trump sees it that way. On January 20th, 2017, in his inaugural address, Donald Trump painted a dark, bleak picture of our country in crisis when he declared, and I quote, "This American carnage stops right here. It stops right now." But as a sitting president, Trump's anger, hate, and divisiveness, pitting Americans against one another, preying on our divisions, and doing nothing about the endemic and the epidemic of guns, is fueling a literal carnage in America. We now have more mass shootings in the year 2019 since January than we have days that have passed since January 1, 2019. As of Monday, according to the data from the Gun Violence Archives, there have been 255 mass shootings in the first 217 days of this year. We can't let this go on. We can't, and I will not, let this man be reelected President of the United States of America. Can't. Folks, his incompetence, his immorality, his carnage stops with us right here, right now, starting in the Midwest. Limited to 4 years, I believe, and I really do believe this, that history will look back on this presidency as an aberrant moment in American history. But if Donald Trump is reelected, I believe he will forever and fundamentally alter the character of this nation. If we give Donald Trump 4 more years, this will not be the country envisioned by Washington and Adams and Jefferson. If we give Donald Trump 4 more years, this will not be the nation bound together by Lincoln. If we give Donald Trump 4 more years, this will not be the nation lifted up by Roosevelt or inspired by Kennedy. It will not be the nation that Barack Obama bends toward justice. The danger Donald Trump and the alt-right pose to this nation isn't hypothetical or exaggerated. It's real. The core values of this nation, our standing in the world, our very democracy, everything that makes America is at stake. Folks, everyone knows who Donald Trump is, even the people who support him. We have to show them who we are. We choose hope over fear. We choose science over fiction. We choose unity over division. And yes, we choose truth over lies. If we stand together, we will win the battle for the soul of this nation. We're the United States of America. There's not a single thing beyond our capacity if we stand together and get up and remember who we are. This is the United States of America, period. Thank you, and may God protect our troops.